head out of here. Most of the whales are going to head out of here as the fall sort of develops. Not yet. It's more like October time when they start to head out of here. And that's when productivity in these waters fall because we just don't have as much sunlight. But the real reason they're heading out of here is not because the productivity drops, and it's not because it gets chilly, because whales are really well insulated with blubber. It's actually all about these guys, orca. There are two types of orca in these waters. There's fish-feeding orca and transient orca. And those transient orca would feed on the little baby whales if they were born in this area. They take things like Dall's porpoise and harbor seals and sea lions, little 12-foot brand new baby whales that can barely swim would be perfect food for orca whales. So what happens is they create what's called a landscape of fear, and the humpback whales get out of here. About 85 to 92% of the whales here in Alaska head down to the waters of Hawaii, which I just think is a great idea. I'm not going to lie. So here we are. It's quite interesting, as I say, to hear that Captain Casey's headed that way too, and he'll be talking about this really interesting connection between Alaska and Hawaii. And let me just say, the ship's going that way too, so we're all headed the same way. Our work is done out from a little town called Lahaina. And if you know Lahaina, you know we've had a really, really tough year. But the waters out front are fabulous for humpback whales. They are calm and clear. They're protected by the West Maui Mountains. And 85% of the mothers and calves that use the waters of Hawaii will come through this one area, this one stretch of water between Lahaina and Lanai, and that is where they'll raise their little calves. So the work I've been doing is very much focused in that area, and it's sort of applied up here, and it's lovely to make the connection between the two. When I mention to people I do whale research in Hawaii, they definitely think it looks like this, and I really wish it did. It's much more like this. It's long days on small boats, and yeah, it takes the toll by the time you get to this point in life as well, for sure. So, but still, I completely see it as a privilege to have got to do this work, because I did grow up in a very urban setting in the north of England, in Manchester, and never knew that this is where my work was going to take me. So I absolutely see this as a privilege to do this work. I'm part of a team for sure, and this is our little group right here. This is myself. This is Amy, the other half of the group. She very much is a fabulous boat driver, and she handles the logistics and deals with all that side and the operational side. Rob here is Tiki Rob, and he has always looked after our finances. These are our photographers, John and Dan, and some of the beautiful underwater pictures I show are their work. And of course, we're trying to get lots of youngsters in. So this is Vanessa, one of our youngsters that's joined the program, and hopefully as we all age out and decide to sit on rocking chairs or balconies and watch the whales from there, we've got lots of youngsters hopefully coming behind to carry on the work. The work we do there has had really nice coverage. I did a six-part piece in the New York Times about this work a few years ago now. And on the back of that, we got introduced into the world of documentary filmmaking. Originally, I was very concerned about combining filmmaking with research. Could we still do our research? Could we still meet our research goals and questions? And this gentleman here was Tom Fitz with the BBC. He was very, very pivotal in developing and maturing my attitudes to that, and really giving me a good perspective on it. But he did it very simply at the end of the day. He said, you know what you've got to think about, Rachel? You know that last scientific paper you wrote? How long did it take? I was like, oh, it took 6 months. And how many people read it? And I said, I think about 2,000 people read it, it's really a good one. And he says, well, this documentary that we're making will probably be watched by about 2 million people. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So it is a way that those scientists can come out of our corner, quit just talking to other scientists, and get our story out and pass on what we've seen and what we know to a larger audience. So I think there's real value in that. This gentleman here is Philippe Cousteau, and he is the grandson of Philippe Cousteau. And so he came, he's Philippe, he's the grandson of Jacques Cousteau, and he came and joined us and filmed The Amazing Planet. And from there, more recently, we did The Mating Game, which was on the BBC and Netflix. And then we just did one called Incredible Animal Journeys, which is on Disney and Hulu, and Nat Geo was the production behind it. And that just got nominated for an Emmy, so that's kind of exciting. Yeah, I know. Big deal, yeah. So these are the whales that everybody comes to see, and the water is beautiful. It is this clear. That's not doctored. The mums and calves congregate in this area, and they are incredibly friendly at this stage. These calves are naive, but they really struck us when I was working just as a naturalist on a whale watching boat. There was this real feeling that these are very vulnerable animals, these little calves with no yet sense of the wider world. And so the focus of our work became very much protecting this area as a nursery for humpback whales that would then feed this population up in Hawaii. We've done lots of different research. One I'll point out just today as an interesting story is why whales breach. This is a question that is universally asked, why do whales breach? I haven't got the answer for why all whales breach, but I have got the answer for why baby whales breach. So young whales in the first year of life will breach and breach and breach. They'll go into sequences of like 20 breaches at a time. And mom is providing all their food as milk and trying to fatten them up. So it's really hard to understand why they're breaching so frequently and using up all that energy when they're supposed to be sitting still and growing. Well, it turns out it actually has a really important function. And we found out a little bit more about this when we started sampling the muscles of a whole range of humpback whale calves to adults and also different species too. We never took samples from live animals, though. That's not a comfortable place for me to be. So all our samples came from strandings, from animals that had died and were on the beaches and we could get samples from. And if you look at their muscles, you'll find if you take a little sample of that muscle and you pulverize it up in a phosphate buffer, what you get is a red solution like this. And that red color is coming from a substance called myoglobin. And myoglobin is to muscles what hemoglobin is to blood. It's an oxygen carrier. So more myoglobin means more oxygen stored in the muscles, and that's why the whales can stay down for these extended periods of 15, 20 minutes. They're air breathers just like us, but they've developed these abilities. So when a whale comes to the surface and breathes multiple times, they're actually super saturating not just the blood, but also the muscles with oxygen. So this is what the adults look like, but this is the calves. The first time we ran it, we thought we'd got it wrong. My students wandered into the lab and said, Dr. Cartwright, it didn't work. There's no myoglobin at all. And what we found is there was absolutely no myoglobin in the muscles of the young calves. So this story then developed as we dove into the biochemistry of it all a little bit more. But what turns out is in the muscle cells, exercise of those muscles releases calcium. And that calcium is the exact type of calcium that triggers the pathway in the cell to produce myoglobin. So the more they exercised, the longer they were able to hold their breath. And that's why the young whales were so active at such a crucial time when they're dependent on mother's milk. And now they're crowing cartwheels. And it was all about the ability to build up this breath hold capacity. Now, we don't know if this holds yet for adult whales, but certainly for calves, we could see it. There was multiple different lines of evidence that led us to this same conclusion. So if you see the little baby whales breaching away tomorrow and the calves are out there super active, that is the story that we were able to discern from all that work. Now, once the whales go through that active phase, they'll calm right down and they'll spend 50% of their time